Traffic to my LinkedIn profile is up over 600%. Find out why on the TPS report. So the reason traffic is up so much is everybody seems to be very interested in this Salesforce certified JavaScript developer 1 that I recently passed. A lot of people commenting here, congratulating, a lot of views on this post. So there's got to be a lot of interest in this exam. I'm pretty excited about it, so thought I'd do a video here. Talk a little bit more about it. So they've got a trail mix for you here. Prepare for your Salesforce JavaScript Developer 1 credential. And there's just some great stuff in here. I kind of wanted to go through it real quickly. There's the overview, of course. And, this is real high level. And I think what it highlights is the path now is a super badge and a multiple choice proctored exam. So not like the old days where you'd actually have a human grading your project. We let sort of the unbiased trailhead validator check your code. Also, this workshop, certification preparation for JavaScript Developer 1. I haven't taken this, but it looks awesome. This pretty much looks like exactly what you need to know to pass the exam. Look at everything that's in here. These data types and variables, this type conversion, JSON. I mean, really just a ton of JavaScript goodness. This is stuff that would be great to learn even if you're not taking the exam. So, great new course. JavaScript is useful for all kinds of things, right? It's not just Lightning Web Components. You use it in Aura, use it in Visualforce. You use it in the JavaScript plugin in Salesforce CPQ. B2C Commerce Cloud, those cartridges that you program, that's JavaScript. So JavaScript is really a key language to learn these days, whether you're on the Salesforce platform or any platform. There's some great badges in here to help you prepare. These actually teach you the skills you need to pass that exam. So JavaScript skills for Salesforce developers, modern JavaScript development. We can take a look at these. All right. JavaScript in the browser, very important piece of the exam. These things like event listeners and so forth. Objects, classes, prototypes, events, functions. All of these things, both in this module and in this module. This is what you're going to need to know to take the exam, but I would say you need to go just a little deeper than this on this concept. So when you take this module, just go ahead and take the example they give you, take it a step further, go research it a little more, play with it in your own org, your own console, your own JS bin, and get really familiar with what's in these modules, and that'll give you a nice foundation. So in order to clear the certification, you need to get the super badge as well as the exam. So the super badge is the Lightning Web Components Specialist super badge. And if you've taken super badges before, there'll be some prerequisites you need to take to unlock the badge. So quick start LWC, working with data, testing framework, accessibility, and then you can do the big super badge. So the super badge is actually pretty involved. I think it said it takes 12 hours. I spent more than that, not a lot more, but a fair amount more. Call it 20 hours. But essentially it's kind of too much to do all in one sitting, unless maybe you're superhuman, but I would plan on breaking it up into 3-4 days, because you'll actually kind of get stumped on it after a while. And it's not so much stumped in getting it working, but it's stumped in getting it to pass the validator. So, in the real world, there's many ways to write code that will meet the requirements. In the Trailhead world, you have to write the code exactly to the requirement. So it not only needs to work, but it needs to be built the right way. As you know, JavaScript is very complicated in the sense that there's many syntaxes you can do to achieve the same thing. So many times the validator just wants a certain syntax. And they'll give you some hints, but sometimes it's not clear. You just need to walk away and take a break. When you come back, then you'll get that aha moment. Oh, this is how they wanted it to be written. You'll change your code. It'll pass the validation. So you know that that check challenge button in Trailhead, you'll be clicking that quite a bit. But don't get frustrated. Don't give up. Sometimes you just need that fresh perspective. So try to spread this badge out over 3-4 days, something like that. This is the app that you actually end up building for the super badge. It's really cool. Look at this. We've got all these different components, and this app is really interactive. It's a nice mix of base components, a lot of custom things, third-party libraries, standard detail pages, things like that. You can view all these boats. You can create a new boat. You can go into the boat editor, and this is actually a grid where you can kind of mass edit this stuff. You know, come down here and save it when you're done. There's this boats near me map integration, which I don't know how many are near me. Not too many. You can click into these, kind of makes it active and brings up some information on the right side about the boat. You can see the boat's location, details. You can click on full details, which brings you to the standard record page for that boat, which has been customized a bit. We added the same component here 3 times, so we're seeing similar boats by type, similar boats by price, and similar boats by length. You know, you can do some really cool things with this. You can click into a boat, you can go and see the reviews, you can write a review, give it some stars and submit it, and it takes you right back here to see the review. So, you know, the thing I think is this isn't just an app that you're building to get a certification. You're actually building up your tool set for real life projects. I could see myself coming back in here and pulling out a piece of code maybe for a future project. So there's actually a lot of value in doing this. And I would say, even though it's tedious to pass the Trailhead validation with the code, in the real world, this is going to be tedious in similar ways. There won't be a code validator, but I mean, there might be, right? There might be a PMD or something, but more importantly, there's going to be people QAing your work. You're going to think it's fine, but it's going to fail QA because of the way it behaves or something like that. So this gets you ready for the real world when you're iterating a lot, you know, having to make small changes to your code over and over again. So it's nice training in that regard. Some tips for the exam: no JavaScript promises, inside and out, how to create them, how to consume them, how they work internally, you know, as well as sort of how you use them as an end user. A lot of great documentation out there on promises. These Mozilla Developer Network docs are great. Read through these, but also, you know, write code to kind of demonstrate these things. Arrow functions, know these things inside and out. Know all the different syntaxes for arrow functions. Know how you know, an ES5 style function translates to an ES6 style arrow function. You know, how can you do with and without the return statement, with and without the parentheses, all this type of stuff. You're going to have to know all these different methods that operate on things like arrays and objects. So these methods like slice, splice, split, map, filter. You're going to have to know all these inside and out. So find all these methods, play with them, know how they work. Know how they work in conjunction with like things like spread operators. Know classes. You're going to have to know how a class works in JavaScript. It's different than in Apex, deceivingly similar, but actually different. So learn how you create an object, give it a prototype, also learn the newer syntax where you're not using prototypes. Know all the ins and outs of how you can call these things like constructors, inheritance, this, know how this, that keyword this works inside objects. So really get familiar with as many different examples of dealing with objects and classes as you can in JavaScript. Everything you might need to know about the exam is in Trailhead, in the guides. So I'm not going to go into all the detail there, but I will say conceptually, you need to be familiar enough with JavaScript to where you can look at all different types of code snippets and essentially be the JavaScript runtime in your head. So be able to look at these things, know in which order different pieces of code will execute, and what the expected output will be from that. The path to becoming JavaScript Developer 1 certified actually looks like a couple of asynchronous function calls. The super badge and the multiple choice exam both need to be completed before you can proceed. It's almost like a promise.all or an async await before you move forward. So I think there's multiple paths to success here. I started the super badge, then did the exam, then finished the super badge. The way this stuff kind of works is it plays off of each other, right? As you're doing these super badge challenges, you're kind of testing some of this ES6 JavaScript stuff that's going to be on the exam. So in a way, it's a learn by doing experience to prepare for the exam, but also studying for the exam teaches you the JavaScript better to be able to do the super badge better. So, I think basically this is a nice way to put it. Do them in any order you want. Do studying for this, do this in parallel. Doesn't much matter. Don't be worried if you complete one and then complete the other. You might not get your certification right away. I think there's like a batch job that runs in Trailhead. I think I got mine like within 15 minutes. So, it has to connect the web assessor stuff with the Trailhead backend. Make sure you've done them both. And then you get your congratulations email with your shiny certificate. So one thing I'm really excited about this exam is it's a developer exam, right? If I come over here to my Trailblazer profile, trailblazer.me, you search for developer, B2C commerce developer. These were really the Salesforce developer kind of in their heyday, right? Like the force.com developer, the advanced. This was the one where you actually had to do a project and have humans grade your project. These were developer exams, and this one I did over 10 years ago. This one, it's been about 8 years. And then of course they had, PD1, PD2, these were developer exams. But out of these 31 exams I've taken, not a lot of them are developer, it's like marketing cloud, service cloud. But this really brings back, that developer exam experience. And frankly, it's overdue, right? We had Visualforce for many years. There's a little bit of JavaScript test in the, kind of the force.com, PD1, PD2 stuff. But then we had Aura, and Aura, it had a nice life. It's still in production. We never had a real JavaScript exam for Aura, I think, to where we should have, like this Certified JavaScript Developer 1. Now we have it for Lightning Web Components. So better late than never, and really excited about the hardcore developer content in this one. So to wrap it up, I just want to encourage you, don't be scared. Get in there, learn JavaScript, learn ES6, ES7 JavaScript, do the trailheads, do the super badge, study for the exam, take the exam, and really embrace a lot of these new syntaxes and new features of JavaScript. Don't use it in the ES5 world. Use modern JavaScript. JavaScript testing, NPM, all this kind of stuff. Realize it is different from Apex. Realize the similarities can be deceiving. Embrace all that, weirdness about JavaScript, because for all that weirdness, there's a ton of power. JavaScript is everywhere. It's a very valuable skill. And of course, you probably want to know, at least I want to know, this is called JavaScript Developer 1. Will there be a JavaScript Developer 2?